It was a chilly evening on February 14, 1952, around 8:45 in the evening, when Harlan King was settling into his favorite armchair with a glass of fine whiskey. He had just put on an old Billie Holiday record, letting the smooth melodies fill his spacious apartment on the 142nd Street in Harlem. These quiet Thursday nights were rare treasures for him, the one time he could shed the weight of his responsibilities and simply exist as an ordinary fellow, away from the endless demands of his world. But then the telephone shattered the peace. At first, he ignored it, savoring the music and the solitude, yet it rang on, insistent and urgent. Finally, Harlan lifted the receiver. "Yeah." There was a pause, filled only with ragged breathing. Then a woman's voice broke through, trembling with fear. "Harlan, it's Rebecca, Victor's wife." His grip tightened instantly. Victor Malone had been more than an employee. He was family, a towering figure of unwavering devotion who had stood by Harlan through the darkest times. "Rebecca, talk to me. What's happened?" They took him," she whispered, her words dissolving into sobs. "About an hour ago, two men in dark suits, pale-skinned, armed. They burst into our home, yanked him right out of the living room while we were having supper." One of them said, "If you don't show up alone at Anthony Rossi's social club on Hester Street by 9 o'clock sharp, Victor's dead." The record needle scratched to a halt, leaving the room in heavy silence broken only by Rebecca's muffled cries. Harlan glanced at the clock. 8:46. Barely 13 minutes to make a life-altering choice. Victor Malone was a giant of a man, standing over 6 feet tall and built like an oak tree, with a heart just as solid. For nearly 2 decades, he'd been Harlan's shadow, his protector. They'd navigated brutal street conflicts together, endured harsh prison stints side by side, and stared down threats that would have broken lesser men. Victor had shielded Harlan from assassins more times than anyone could count, helped dispose of problems that couldn't see the light of day, and remained steadfast when rival factions tried to dismantle everything Harlan had built. Now, he was nothing more than a pawn in someone else's game. "Rebecca," Harlan said softly, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. "Listen carefully. Victor's coming home. I swear it. Lock every door and window. Don't let anyone in unless it's me or him. You hear me? Please. Harlan, he's all I've got. Bring him back to me. I will." He set the phone down gently, then stood motionless in the middle of the room, his mind racing through possibilities. Anthony Rossi wasn't just another criminal. He was a legend, the shrewd overseer of New York's vast underground empire, a man who pulled strings from shadowy boardrooms rather than dirty alleys. For years, he'd eyed Harlem's lucrative operations, the numbers games, the protection rackets, the flow of money through the community's veins. He'd tried brute force once, sending waves of enforcers north, only to have them repelled bloodied and broken by Harlan's crew. He'd attempted buyouts, offering piles of cash that could tempt saints, but Harlan refused to sell out his people. Political maneuvering came next, leveraging crooked officials and backroom deals, yet Harlan's own network of allies proved stronger. So now Rossi had shifted tactics, personal pressure. Snatch the one man Harlan trusted above all others, force a cruel dilemma. Sacrifice a brother or surrender the empire. It was a clever move, cold and precise, the kind Rossi excelled at. But Harlan knew it wouldn't work. He moved to his bedroom, pushed aside a row of tailored suits in the closet, and triggered a concealed mechanism. A false panel slid open, exposing his private stashed a pair of reliable .45 revolvers, a compact shotgun, ammunition crates, and a secure phone line. Harlan grabbed the special phone, no rotary dial, just a direct connection. It rang once before a rough voice answered. "Boss. Eddie, it's Harlan. Round up the crew. Everyone now." "What's the trouble?" They grabbed Victor, heading to Rossi's place on Hester Street to bring him back. A beat of silence. "Harlan, that's deep in their turf. Walking in there alone, it's a death sentence." "I know exactly what it is." Harlan's tone carried an edge of steel. "That's why you're positioning 12 of our best rifles, shotguns, whatever they've got, on every rooftop, fire escape, and alley overlook within 3 blocks. No one fires until I say. And the signal. You'll hear it loud and clear. If things go south, then turn that club into ashes. No one walks out. Got it. We'll be ready by 9. Time was slipping away. 10 minutes left. Harlan holstered both pistols beneath his dark overcoat, checked his reflection-sharp suit, crisp shirt, no tie. He looked like a man attending a wake. To truly grasp the gravity of that night, you have to understand Anthony Rossi's stature in 1952. He wasn't merely a mob figure, he was a powerhouse, an immigrant from Sicily who'd arrived as a boy, clawed his way up from poverty in lower Manhattan. By his 20s, he'd mastered the art of Prohibition-era smuggling. By 40, he commanded respect across the city. Rossi ruled not through endless bloodshed, though he wasn't above it, but through influence. He owned politicians, judges, police brass, labor bosses. His penthouse overlooked the park, his dinners mingled senators with soldiers. They dubbed him the diplomat of the shadows because he planned like a statesman, always anticipating outcomes, forging alliances that lasted decades. Yet Rossi had a soft spot: his family, specifically his 8-year-old grandson, little Anthony Jr., the son of his beloved daughter. The boy was his joy. Trips to ball games, shared sweets, lessons in old-world traditions. Harlan knew this intimately. Just 4 days earlier, he'd placed a discreet call that set contingencies in motion. At 80:55, Harlan stepped out into the crisp night air. A sleek black sedan idled at the curb, Eddie at the wheel. Positions locked in, Eddie reported as Harlan slid in. 12 men, heavy firepower, covering every angle. "One word from you and it's over. Good man." They sped south through Harlem's vibrant streets, past glowing jazz spots and bustling corners, then into the tighter grid of Little Italy. The atmosphere shifted, narrow lanes, warm lights from family eateries, clusters of men in fedoras lingering outside clubs, eyes tracking the car with knowing suspicion. 903. Rossi's social club loomed on Hester Street, a modest brick facade hiding opulent interiors. Harlan exited alone. 20 minutes, he told Eddie. "If I'm not back, follow the plan. Be careful, boss." 2 burly guards flanked the door, their bulges betraying concealed weapons. They frisked Harlan thoroughly, confiscating 1 pistol but allowing the other. "Mr. Rossi said 1. Harlan tucked it away and entered. The interior was dimly lit, paneled in rich mahogany, with crimson booths and a long bar. A dozen hardened men lounged at tables, gazes sharp and hostile. At the rear, under a mural of rolling hills, sat Anthony Rossi, mid-60s, silver hair impeccably combed, bespoke suit hugging his frame. He nursed a glass of aged scotch, composed as ever. Bound to a chair nearby was Victor Malone, face battered, swollen eye, split lip, stains on his shirt. A scared enforcer, Tommy, held a revolver steady against Victor's temple. Victor lifted his head, meeting Harlan's eyes. A subtle shake. "No, boss, don't yield." Harlan approached deliberately, stopping a safe distance away. "Harlan King," Rossi said warmly, gesturing to a seat. "Join me. I'll remain standing." "As you wish." Rossi sipped his drink. "Care for something? This scotch is exceptional." "No." Rossi set the glass aside. "Straight to it, then. You understand the situation. You snatched my closest friend. I acquired bargaining power." Rossi leaned forward slightly. "I admire you, Harlan. Truly, you've crafted an empire uptown that's remarkable. Intelligent moves, loyal followers. But your refusal to partner, it's draining resources for us both. Harlem isn't open for takeover. Everything has a price." Rossi waved a hand. "I control courts, legislatures, law enforcement, vast wealth, endless manpower. Yet you reject collaboration." "Explain." "Because yielding Harlem means losing it all, our streets, our businesses, our dignity. You'd bleed us dry." Rossi exhaled slowly. "I'm proposing generosity 60% to you. Run the daily operations. I handle oversight and safeguards. Fair, no. Or still no. Then Victor pays the price. Rossi signaled Tommy. The gun pressed firmer. Tension hung thick. Harlan broke it. Anthony, you overlooked something crucial. Rossi arched a brow. Enlighten me. You figured Victor was my only vulnerability. Harlan reached into his pocket deliberately, producing a creased photo. He slid it across the table. Rossi unfolded it, and color drained from his face. The image captured a boy of 8, tousled hair, in a baseball cap, enjoying a treat on a bench in the park. In the distance, one of Harlan's men lingered unobtrusively. Snapped 4 days back, Harlan explained calmly. Central Park afternoon. Your grandson Anthony Jr. prefers chocolate over strawberry, I believe. Rossi's fingers shook. What have you done? Mirrored your play. Secured my own leverage. The room tensed, hands drifted toward weapons. Stand down! Rossi barked, freezing everyone. Where is my grandson? Safe in Harlem. Half a dozen trusted men with him, games, meals, comfort. He's unharmed. So far. You abducted my blood. Orders were clear. If I don't return by 10, they end it. Clock says 9:10. 50 minutes remain. Rossi rose, fury itching his features. A child. And Victor has a young daughter at home who'd lose her father. We're balanced now. Precisely. Trade. Free Victor. I leave. Call my men. Boy returns safely. We all walk away. Or, one both mourn tonight. Headlines tomorrow. Anthony Rossi, underworld strategist, sacrifices grandson in failed Harlem grab. How's that sit with your associates? Your family? Rossi paced briefly, fists balled. Victor rasped, he's faking it, boss. Harlan doesn't harm innocents. Quiet. Harlan murmured, but Rossi sensed the truth. He drained his glass, sat heavily, bluffing with lives on the line. Are you gambling your grandsons? Long stare. Then Rossi nodded at Tommy. Tommy wavered. Boss? Do it. Ropes cut. Victor rose unsteadily, rubbing marks. Come on! Harlan beckoned. They'd nearly reached the exit when Tommy muttered, we can't let this slide, and fired. The shot struck Victor's shoulder. He crumpled. Rossi billowed. No. Harlan knelt, supporting him. Tommy aimed next at Harlan. Harlan fired twice, center mass. Tommy collapsed. Chaos erupted, guns drawn, shots ringing. Harlan hauled Victor behind cover, returning fire precisely, dropping 2, wounding others. Windows shattered as Eddie's team breached from all sides, rooftops raining lead, doors kicked in. The clash was fierce but brief, 90 seconds of thunder, smoke clearing, several of Rossi's men down or disabled, others surrendering. Harlan pressed a cloth to Victor's wound. Hang on, brother. Victor coughed weakly. Whoa, get M.
Yeah, we did. Tell Rebecca.
You'll tell her? Men carried Victor out for urgent care. Harlan approached Rossi, unscathed amid the wreckage. Orders had spared him. You really have him? Rossi asked hoarsely. Harlan produced another photo, the boy safe at home. No, never did. He's with his mother. Rossi trembled. You risked everything. On a bluff. I showed you the agony of loss. You chose family over ambition. That's why Harlem stands. Harlem remains yours. Always was. Send anyone again, no bluff next time. Rossi halted him at the door. Why spare the boy? You could have. Because I'm not heartless. I defend my community. Innocents don't suffer for elders' choices. Rossi nodded, aged in moments. Your domain. My promise. Promises mean little. Fear does. Remember this terror, and that I chose mercy. Harlan vanished into the night. Victor recovered fully, back stronger in months. Rossi honored the truce, never encroaching again. Years later, reflecting on his own brushes with death, Rossi admitted to a confident, true power isn't seizure, it's restraint. Harlan walked into hell, saved his friend through wits alone, never crossing into monstrosity. That's not a criminal. That's untouchable. That February night wasn't about victory through violence. Harlan King didn't just rescue a friend, he upheld unbreakable values. A leader who refuses to bend principles, even facing loss, proves invincible. But let's pause here and think deeper about what drove a man like Harlan to such lengths. Growing up in the South, He'd seen injustice firsthand, families torn apart, opportunities denied simply because of skin color. When he moved north as a young man, Harlem became his haven, but also his battlefield. He built his operations not just for wealth, but to provide for those the system ignored: jobs in tough times, loans when banks turned backs, protection from predators. Victor wasn't just muscle. He was the embodiment of that loyalty. They'd met in the early days, when Harlem was rising under a mentor figure, scraping by in the numbers world. Victor, fresh from a stint in the army, brought discipline and raw strength, but also a code: never harm the vulnerable. Flashback to one of their early shared trials. It was the late 1930s, during a brutal turf skirmish with a rival crew pushing in from the Bronx. Bullets flew in a dimly lit alley off Lenox Avenue. Harlem took a graze to the arm, but Victor shielded him fully, absorbing hits that could have ended it all. In the aftermath, nursing wounds in a safe house, Victor grinned through pain. "Can't let anything happen to you, boss. Who's gonna keep this neighborhood standing if you're gone?" That bond deepened over years. Shared meals with families, quiet talks about dreams beyond the streets, promises to build something lasting. Rebecca, too, was part of that inner circle. A strong woman who'd worked as a nurse during the war, she met Victor at a community dance. Her calm in crisis balanced his intensity. On the night of the kidnapping, as she waited locked in their home, memories flooded her: their wedding in a small church, Victor's gentle side reading to their daughter, his fierce protection of Harlem kids from bullies or worse. Her call to Harlem wasn't just panic. It was trust in the man who'd become like an uncle to their child. Meanwhile, across town, Anthony Rossi's world was one of calculated detachment. He'd built his empire on pragmatism, alliances with powerful figures, like entertaining a senator at his table one night, discussing business over fine wine. But his grandson changed that. Little Anthony Jr. was the light in his later years, a reminder of simpler roots. Rossi taught him card games, told sanitized stories of the old country. The photo Harlem used struck deep because Rossi knew vulnerability. He'd lost family young, fueling his rise. In that club facing Harlem's revelation, Rossi confronted his own hypocrisy, using fear on others while shielding his blood. To flesh out the tension, consider the buildup. Days before, Harlem scouts noted unusual movements, Rossi's men probing Harlem edges. Harlem anticipated escalation, hence the planted photo op, a non-invasive warning. He didn't want war, he wanted deterrence. Adding layers, Harlem had quietly supported community efforts, funding scholarships for bright kids, ensuring rent relief during hard winters. Rossi viewed it as weakness, Harlem saw it as strength. During the standoff, extended dialogue revealed philosophies. Rossi argued, the world's a marketplace, Harlem, adapt or perish. Harlem countered with stories: a young boy he helped escape poverty, now a doctor, families kept safe. Power that crushes people isn't power, it's tyranny. When shots erupted, the chaos wasn't mindless. Harlem's men targeted threats precisely, minimizing carnage, a testament to discipline. One young crew member hesitated, firing near innocents in the club. Harlem's training emphasized rules. Post-incident, ripples spread. Word of Harlem's Bluff spread awe through streets. Young aspirants sought his guidance, learning strategy over brute force. Victor, recovering, shared hospital talks with Harlem about seamy retirement dreams, maybe a legitimate business. Rebecca urged it, fearing loss. Rossi, humbled, redirected energies elsewhere, mentoring successors on caution. In later reflections, he pondered Harlem's mercy as the ultimate dominance. Harlem continued protecting Harlem, navigating changing times, civil rights stirrings, new threats. He mentored youth, stressing education alongside street smarts. His legacy: resilience rooted in integrity. Years on, echoes lingered. A journalist once asked a retired figure about Harlem's independence. The reply: one man taught that true kings don't conquer through cruelty, they inspire fear through fairness. That night defined eras, a clash of worlds, resolve not by destruction, but moral fortitude. Expanding further, let's explore Harlan's personal reflections in quieter moments. Alone after the ordeal, back in his apartment with the record spinning again, he poured another whiskey. Hands steady but mind replaying choices. He thought of his own upbringing, fleeing southern hardships, arriving in New York wide-eyed. Early jobs, shining shoes, running errands, witnessing exploitation. Vowing never to let his community suffer similarly, he built defenses. Victor's family visited often post-recovery. Their daughter, wide-eyed, asked Harlan why bad men existed. He knelt, explaining simply, "Some chase power wrongly. We choose right even when hard." Community responses varied. Elders praised Harlan's restraint, no child harmed. Youth idolized the cleverness, retelling the bluff in barbershops. Rival factions noted, approaching cautiously for truces. Harlan negotiated fair terms, expanding influence ethically. Personal costs, sleepless nights, wondering if mercy invited future tests. But principles held. In broader New York underworld, the event shifted dynamics. Respect for Harlem's autonomy grew. Harlan's later years involved philanthropy, anonymous donations to churches, schools. He read voraciously history, philosophy, inspiring balanced leadership. Victor's full recovery brought barbecues, laughter, normalcy amid shadows. Rebecca became advocate, supporting widows of street conflicts. The grandson grown, perhaps never knew details, lived freely. Ultimately, Harlan proved that unyielding ethics forge legends. To add depth, imagine alternate paths pondered. If Harlan yielded, Harlem subsumed people suffering. If he escalated fully, bloodbath, mutual destruction. The Bluff preserved Liv's honor. Conversations with Eddie revealed planning scouts, mapping club, timing signals. Crew members' backstories: one former boxer, another war veteran, loyal for Harlan's fairness. Rossi's side. Internal fallout. Tommy's impulsiveness criticized. The night taught universal lessons: empathy's power, Bluff's art, family's sanctity. Harlan King wasn't merely survivor, he was guardian, his story enduring inspiration.